right. Yesterday, I did a sales demo for Jonathan with a company that has over 200 employees, and they put in their room their entire management group. They had their installation managers, service managers. They brought in their outside IT person. The room was pretty full. So you would think that the questions would be very difficult. They sent me an outline, very organized. These larger companies are very organized typically. They sent me an outline, and you would have thought it was going to be a pretty tough demonstration with regard to complicated questions, but it really wasn't. It was all pretty simple, basic, nothing I think that any of you couldn't have answered. The trick, though, was understanding what they were asking, because what they wanted to know did not always match the words that they used. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So it was really important to have the ability to understand what people wanted, not necessarily what they asked for. You have to read between the lines. Now, I can tell you, and Roger, I'm sure, knows this, in the HVAC industry, probably like a lot of industries, one of the tricks to being an effective salesperson is understanding what the customer wants, not necessarily what they ask for. You wait for the customer to ask for UV, ultraviolet air treatment. You probably are in for a long wait. Probably not going to ask you for such a thing. You could walk out of there and say to the boss, "Well, they didn't ask me. How was I supposed to?" But by reading between the lines, you could offer such a thing. If they talked about cleanliness, allergies, keeping the windows closed. Oh, we always keep our windows closed. Why do you do that? Well, we just have allergies. We don't want the dirty air. I know it's beautiful outside, but we keep our house tight. That's a good opportunity to talk to them about air treatment options, such as HEPA, air filtration, UV lights, things like that. So what's my point? Same with software, same with probably everything. I don't care if you sell watches for a living, you have to understand what they want, not necessarily what they're asking for. So that has prompted some of my topics today, but I just want you to be aware of that. That's really important. So I asked for people to give me some ideas on training for today, and I have a few things I want to go over. At first, this is going to seem really fundamental, but hang in there with me because if you pick up one little tip, I think it's going to be worth it. One thing people have asked me is, where do the where's the where do the reports get their numbers from? So when I run a report, like an income statement, a balance sheet, where do those numbers come from? Let's talk about the basics of tracking the money coming in and out of a company. Again, bear with me if you're looking at this going, oh no, this is up right now. Bear with me. The idea behind bookkeeping, accounting, is to track money coming in and out of your company. And so if you're going to track money, how did that money come into our company? How did it leave our company? The first thing you have to do is categorize the different ways money comes in and out of the company. So, for example, we have income, and that term is also known as sales or revenue. So, one way money comes in and out of the company is through sales. We go out and we sell things, and people hand us their money. In one way, we lose money is we have to buy stuff. When we make the sale, we have to buy stuff. And maybe that is labor. Maybe it's a machine. But one way money comes in is through a sale, income, and one way we get rid of our money is through cost of goods sold. And that's also known as COGS and direct expenses. And then another way we lose money is through expenses, also known as indirect expenses. So they're not directly related to the income. These are directly related to income. That's why we have direct. directly related to income. This is indirectly related to income. We have expenses, and we sometimes call that overhead or G&A or SG&A. Jonathan got that recently. Somebody said, well, where's the SG&A or something like that? And we don't call it SG&A. It's just an also known as. But SG&A stands for selling, general, and administrative expenses. So these are expenses related to the administration, expenses related to general, and expenses related to selling. And that's really a term not used much anymore, SG&A. We typically just call it overhead or expenses. And then, of course, what's left over is net profit. But we're talking about how money comes in and how money goes out. Now, another way money comes in is through a loan, right? So we might borrow money. We might go to a bank and say, can we have $10,000? We'll pay you back later. And they say, sure. So we have money coming in through a loan. And that's not the same thing as income, it's a loan. And if we're going to have a loan, we probably ought to put in here something about that loan. We'll have notes payable or loans payable. And that keeps track of money that we owe the bank. And if we have income, it's possible they're not going to pay us right away. So we have accounts receivable. And that keeps, I before E except after C, right? That keeps track of money owed to us that hasn't been paid yet on sales or income. And so all of these things are known as a chart of accounts. So we have a chart of accounts. That's what these are. So that's all a chart of account is it's a chart, a list of accounts or ways money comes in and out of the company. And what do we do with it? So if we go to Total Ops Manager and we go to Banking, Chart of Accounts list, that's our chart of accounts. And we can filter these by bank type, by COGS type, and these are global filters, as you know. For those of you that are new to that, these are the global filters. You right click and do edit. You can see how they're created. So you can make your own filters. So that's our chart of accounts. And that's where good bookkeeping starts. That's one of the points I'm trying to make here is when it comes to really good bookkeeping, accounting, good reports, it all starts with a really good chart of accounts. And most of the time, you go to your accountant for that information. A trainer at Aptora will help you with that, but a tech support person will not. Tech support won't help with that.
James?
Yeah.
Am I the only one that can't see your screen?
Just send a message as well.
Okay. Yeah, we're not
in the
seeing
chat.
back in again because I couldn't see it and I thought I was the only one.
Wow. Turn it off and turn it back on. Okay. Man, you guys, 9 minutes into this, and I just found out you can't see my screen.
I thought you were just talking.
For some reason, I thought maybe you were just talking.
That's what I thought too. I thought you were talking, and then a couple of things you said made me go like, "No, I think his screen is on."
Yeah.
I thought you were just like talking before you start sharing your screen.
Yeah, I didn't want to sound dumb.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, there's a lesson learned there, I guess. Speak up, right? So what I was talking about when you didn't see my screen is that when it comes down to bookkeeping, accounting, and software, it's all about tracking money in and out of your business. And there's ways to track that money, and you heard the words, but you didn't see the screen. We have income, accounts receivable, etc., and those are chart of accounts. And that's really important because good bookkeeping, good accounting, good reports start with a good chart of accounts, a really good chart of accounts. And your accountant is the person that helps you with that. or your full charge bookkeeper. Remember, a full charge bookkeeper is a term used to describe a bookkeeper that's reached a certain level, like a black belt in karate. Full charge bookkeepers like a black belt in karate. They're like a master mechanic, a master technician, and they can do that too. So they're they're capable of doing that as well. But you have to have a good chart of accounts. Now, in Total Office Manager, there's another thing that has to be set up that's related to the chart of accounts, and that's our department list. So here we create our list of departments. Now, don't be confused by the terminology that people might throw at you. These could be called classifications. These could be called divisions or departments. All those words are fine. I typically describe commercial as a division. We have a commercial division. We have a residential division. We have an install department. Another term for these is profit center. Someone might say to you, can I set up a list of profit centers? So it's really important to know the AKA, the also known as, because it'd be easy to say, I don't think so. I can look into that. And they'll assume we don't really have such a thing, but we do. Now, why are all these terms out there? Why don't we have generally accepted terms? We do for some things, but others not so much. So there are books where you can go and see generally accepted accounting principles and terms, but people make up their own. Now, one thing that you don't need in Total Office Manager is to add department names to chart of accounts. You'll see that a lot. So people will come in here and they'll create an income account called equipment, and they might put new construction. And then they might have another one called equipment replacement, maybe another one called commercial or design build, something like that. You don't do that. In Total Office Manager, you just simply create your cost of goods sold accounts and your income accounts for all departments. You don't have to duplicate them because we have a department list here. And whenever you sell things, you identify the department, and that's how it knows what the cost was and the income was by department. So that's the key to setting this thing up properly. A lot of our unhappy users don't set this up properly. A lot of people that come to us looking for new software don't set these two things up properly, but it all starts there. It's really critical. One feature, by the way, before I move on, because that's all I have to say about that. Were there any questions? All right, so if you're thinking this, you might already know it. Maybe you don't want to ask the question. But when you look at an income statement, of course, that's where the money comes from. So there's the department, Colorado Springs. So that's the first thing we do is go look to see if there's a department. And then we list out your income. We start with equipment. And where did that thing come from? Equipment. That's your chart of accounts. So all these are coming from your chart of accounts, and they optionally can be categorized by department. I'll get rid of that department selector. So that's where that money comes from. It goes out and it looks at the chart of accounts and it starts adding all that money up. So how does it know such a thing? Well, let's double click on that number. We get a report showing where that number came from, transaction detail by account. You QB people at RA. That's the exact same report that QB offers. And then we have an invoice. Double click on the invoice. There it is. So something on here created equipment, right? So let's go back to that. Part of this 709,000 came from that invoice. So something created some income using the chart of account called equipment. Something on here was one of these items. Now, if I go to menu, I can come down towards the bottom and hit find in GJ, General Journal. And this will show me where it came from. So right here is equipment. So the account, the chart of account is called equipment. The type of account is an income account. Go back up to chart of accounts and look at that. There's equipment. What type of account is it? Income, right there. You can see income, and there's the word equipment. That's how it got there, because it was used on this invoice. So income, how much income? 556.50. You can see where the rest of it came from, parts and materials and so forth. And you can see accounts receivable. They obviously didn't pay this invoice, did they? Because some of it went to accounts receivable. Earlier, we were talking about how we track money in and out. We have income, but sometimes they don't pay us, so we have to have accounts receivable. That makes up our chart of accounts. So let's look at that piece of equipment, and then we'll move on. Something in here was the equipment, 500 and some dollars. So we could go to this water heater, 556, that was it. Right click on it. Down towards the bottom, we have an item menu, submenu, edit item. Go to the accounting tab, and we can see that every time we sell one of these, we total up the income in an account called equipment. And we can see whenever we buy one of these and sell it, we have an expense or a cost of goods sold, and it goes to parts and materials, which is probably not the right choice. So this is broken. So I need to fix it. So I'm going to click this drop down and look at the cost of goods sold and see if I have one called equipment, and I do. So I'm going to fix that because it belongs in equipment. And I'll hit save and close, and it's going to say, hey, you changed the account for this. Is that what you really wanted to do? Yes, it is. And then it says, well, you have historical transactions. So we found transactions that use the old account that you switched from. You like to change all those? You have to have permission to do this. You have to know the admin password. But this would be a good thing to fix. Now, it won't break your income statement, meaning your net profit's the same. So if you filed your taxes already, it's okay because it won't change your net profit. It just rearranges the cost of goods sold and it fixes it. And this is common. This is a common thing to fix. So I'm going to say yes to that. And then it says, okay, well, what's the admin password? Correct. Type that in. Now it gives me some options. Do you want to update the income account? Well, I didn't actually change it, so it doesn't matter. I want to change this. I want to update the expense account from parts and materials to equipment. And I optionally can pick a date to start with, like the beginning of the year. Otherwise, it's going to do all of them. And I'm going to just do all of them, click OK. And it's very fast. Even on a big database, it only takes a few seconds. And I fixed it. So I got those fixed up. If I find somebody with a bad chart of accounts, I can quickly fix those up. So I can start moving money around. Another thing I can do when I'm finished is I can highlight a couple of chart of accounts and I can merge them. So this utility here allows me to merge those chart of accounts together, and I can get rid of one of them because it'll be empty. So I have ways to fix people's books up. Now, this is usually done by accountants. This is usually done by people like at RA Tax. They go into QuickBooks and do things like this a lot. Accounting firms do this a lot. They fix up their clients' books. It's not free. They have to pay for it. So we don't do it for free either. Oftentimes we're asked to do things for free at Aptora when in fact nobody does them for free, and the caller knows it. As I've told you, they're great negotiators, right? They spend money all day long. So they'll ask you to do it for free and pretend like they can't believe you wouldn't do it for free. That's the game they play, so remember that. But we do things like that, and we can also say, hey, hire a real accounting, because your accountant should have saw that. Your accountant should have noticed that. You have yourself a tax preparer. You don't have an accountant. Get a real accountant. All right, so that's the chart of accounts. That's how to see where the money comes from. I could have done the same thing with a bill. We could have double-clicked on expenses, seen a report, double-clicked on that. We could have gone into a bill. That's basically where the money comes from. Now, one thing was brought up to me yesterday is a prospect rather, somebody that's thinking of buying our software. They asked if we have project management. That's another example of a term that is unofficial. That's a broad term that's unofficial. Do you have job? Do you have project management? Do you guys have CRM? Do you have whatever? So a lot of times you'll be thrown a term and it's unofficial. So keep that in mind, project management. Your answer is always to say, what do you mean by that? When you think of project management, what do you picture? Jonathan, are you having trouble? I see you're leaving, coming, leaving, coming, leaving. Are you having trouble with this system? I see a lot of people, it just keeps saying left, left. People are leaving, people are coming. I want to make sure that you're not having trouble. All right, so project management, just keep that in mind. It's not an official term. That's not in any accounting book, or business management book might have it, but everybody's meaning's a little bit different. So keep that in mind. But ask them what they mean by that, and yeah, we probably have project management, because the one thing that comes to my mind when you have project management is the ability to put in the corporate headquarters, and then put in a location, and then put in a job, which is what they might mean by project. So they might say to you, well, a project is a job that goes on for a long time. I can't believe you don't know that. Are you new here? And then they might say that because in their company, they think project is some official word for something, and it might be, but it's not in the outside world. So typically a project is a job. It's just a job that goes on for a certain amount of time. How long? We don't know, because it's their definition that matters. But typically that's what it is. So project management would be the ability to create an estimate for that job. So you want to be able to go in and create estimates. You want to be able to create sales, maybe credits, maybe sales opportunities, put in a sales lead, create purchase orders. You might need to receive payments on that work, partial payments. You might need to do progress invoicing. You might need to put in notes about that job, right? So you might have to go into the contact log and enter notes. You called them, they had a complaint about this, had a complaint about that, you took care of it, it's all done. You might need to put in a phone message for that job. So they call and they say, hey, so-and-so never called me. So I right click and go to history, and I go to phone messages, And I say, oh, well, I don't see that we ever put in a message for them. Let me take care of that. And you right click and you put in a message for Carla. Put in the note, it's urgent. Wants to see you, came to see you, please call. There we go. Maybe put in the info stamp so everybody knows who you were. Save and close. Missing information. Please enter something in the form. Oh, okay, from John Edwards. So we made that a required field. So that is project management, isn't it? Well, it could be. It just depends on their definition. So yes, we do have project management. Thank you for asking. Remember, it all depends on what they mean. What are they talking about? Know what they want, not necessarily what they ask for. All right, so I got that covered. Let's talk about a new feature that I want to make sure everybody understands. Preferences, go to invoices, sales invoice estimates, company preferences. Down at the bottom, there's a new preference called allow selling of zero quantity serialized items on invoices. Came to the webinar, you already know about this, but I wasn't clear during the webinar on one fine point about this. When you create an invoice, you now have the ability to sell a serialized item that's not in stock. That way you can collect for it, because it may be your policy that you collect half, quarter, 100% before you'll order something. So now you have the ability to order something, collect all of the money, get your pricing established, but put it on order. So let's add a serialized item. Let's use the lookup feature in case you don't use it, you're not familiar with it. The lookup feature is something you always want to go to in a demo. Let's go to it, use it, so they see that it exists. I'll filter by serialized. That shows me all the serialized items. I can sort by availability, and here is a unit that we do not have in stock. I'll double click it, put it over here, click OK. Now it's there. Get rid of diagnostic fee. Change the warehouse. By the way, the warehouse defaulted to truck number 1 because there's a feature in the software that allows you to default a warehouse to the user's name. I'm logged in as Ashley Adams, and the software has a preference that will just use her truck all day long. So if she's on her laptop in her truck, it's using her truck all day long. That's a good feature. That's a minor little thing that most people wouldn't pay attention to. That's been in there a long time. So I changed it to main warehouse. So now I have the ability to get paid for this whole thing. And then ship date down here, I'll change it. So I'll say that the ship date is going to be 5/20 of 5/20 of 2020. And the method is company truck. We'll deliver it to you. Delivered to job right there. So what am I doing? Z&A Foods has ordered a single zone ductless heat pump from us, where it could have been a reach-in cooler. That's usually what these things are, like kitchen appliances, reach-in cooler, something like that. It could be $10,000. Ice machines can be $10,000. And I'll get 25% down, 50% down, every bit of it down. And then I'll order it for you. And then when it comes in, we'll drive it out there, deliver it to you. Right now, I have the ability to give you a paid receipt once you pay me. So notice the quantity is 1. Usually we have to pick a serial number here, but now we don't. So now we have the ability to click menu and click save saying that they have a service agreement, but they didn't get a discount. We don't discount equipment, only repairs. You want to save anyway? Yes, I do. They have reimbursables. Do you want to see those now? No, I don't, because I'm not doing progress invoicing or anything else. All right, so now it's saved, and I can go to menu, and I can go down to receive payments. The key is I put in a quantity of 1, and I did not make that clear during the webinar. Got to put in a quantity of 1. Go to receive payments. The receive payment form comes up, and put in 100% paid for equipment, something like that. Notice it already checked the box. It already put in the amount. It knew all this because I came from the invoice. How did they pay us? Let's say they paid us a check. What's the check number? There, save and close. So now it's paid. I can print it. But right now the print isn't available. That's because I have the approval feature turned on. I have a feature turned on that says you can't print or email anything until it's approved. But I can also give the user permission to approve things. Just so happens she can approve her own work. So I'm going to approve it. Save it. And I'll approve it. You might think, why should she have to approve her own work? Well, that way it's still official. There's still a process. Approved by. So we know who approved it right here. Happened to be herself. Go down to menu. Now I can go down to print, and we can print an invoice for that. In fact, I'll do preview. Now it's paid. The only thing is there's no serial number. So we would put in a note to make all this clear, that we have it on order. We're expecting it by so-and-so date. We'll be delivering it. At that point, we will give you a final invoice. So what they can do is they can go out and pick the serial number and give them a final invoice later. So that's the beauty of that feature. It's really a good feature. And I doubt our competitors allow that. Well, I really doubt there's software out there that can do such a thing. It's probably very unusual. So that is the advantage of dealing with a software company that understands contracting. Now, here's the truth. We haven't had that feature a long time. And this is worth telling a customer. Sometimes when you accentuate your negatives, you accentuate your positives. So I wouldn't hesitate to say that if you have an opportunity. We haven't always had this feature. The truth is somebody pointed it out. They wanted a feature request, and we told them no. And then eventually, we had a discussion with them. They explained everything. In fact, they explained it to James, the owner, and he's like, "Yeah, that makes total sense. I can see why you need that feature. You're right. I never thought of that. I don't, because I've never done that. I don't do that. No one's ever pointed that out to me. So yeah, that makes sense." And we added it. So now, from here, you have the ability to create a purchase order for the item. So notice how the flow is really great. You can make a PO for this item. And then when you receive the item, you simply go back to the invoice and update it. So it's that simple. There it is, the single sewn ductless. Go ahead and carry this through. Let's go ahead and say that we ordered it from to carrier. Now it's on order. I'm going to change the date to 030-2022. We'd ask the vendor, when's this coming in? They might say that it's coming in 05/01/2020. That PO back order, not body order. That's back ordered. PO unit back ordered the unit. Now it's on order. So we're going to make a note of this invoice here. It's 78796. And I'm going to put a plus sign. Save and close. But allowed that. Now we're going to go to vendors, go to receive items, receive item list. These are all the receive items we have that haven't been converted to a bill. I'll do new item receipts. In fact, I could have just done receive items or control R. So now you're receiving the item. What does that mean? That means the item is now here. They brought it to us. They dropped it off. And what happens sometimes when a delivery person drops something off? They hand you a piece of paper and you have to sign it. And that's a packing slip. So you have to sign the packing slip. The packing slip is then handed to someone and they enter an item receipt for it because we've received the item. So the packing slip has carrier at the top, right? So we know who it's from. We click carrier. And it asks me if I want to recall the last transaction, meaning, do you want to create a copy of the last carrier item receipt you did? No. All right. So you have open purchase orders for carrier. Do you want to receive against those purchase orders? Yes, I do, actually, because I have a PO for that unit that we back ordered and got paid for. So yes, I do. And where is it? Well, we called it BO unit. We gave it a memo, BO unit. So there it is. We click OK. And then I got to change my date. This is a demo database, so it keeps offering this date. So I'll change my date there. Now that packing slip probably has some kind of reference number on it. And I'll enter that reference number. And then remember our new stage feature. The next stage may be notify the customer, right? So stage 1 could have been receive the items. Stage 2 could be notify the customers. Or stage 3 could be notify the technician. So that's where stages comes in handy. Is this project management? Yes, this is. This is project management. So we have project management. There's no menu called project management. But yeah, we sure have project management. Pretty darn good project management, I'll say. So here I have stages, which is part of good project management. I really need to fill those out. I got to make time to do that and do that to our sales demo database also. But I got to be careful here. I'm about to put it in the warehouse, truck number 1. I got to be careful. I may not want to do that. But then again, truck 1 may be delivering it. So it's in the main warehouse, and that's where I can put it. But I also have the option of putting it straight into truck number 1 that's going to be delivering it. But I'm going to put it in the main warehouse just for now. Now, the next thing that I need to do is pick the serial number, or pardon me, enter the serial number. Got to enter the serial number. I'll enter that right now, randomly. We do have the ability to sequence serial numbers in case we were entering many, many dozens or hundreds. We can sequence them. There's the serial number. Now, I didn't put a cost on the PO. I should have. If I had, it would have come over here. So I should have put a cost on that PO. So I'll just put in, let's see, PO. Make sure that PO. I'm going to click View PO. Make sure there's not a bug in the software. Yeah, so there it is. So Z&A Foods. Check this out. If I put my cursor in there and right click, then I have the ability to shortcut into that customer history. See that? Now, who does this? What software company would do this? Service Titan wouldn't bother. Field Edge wouldn't bother because this doesn't sell software. This just makes people happy. And you're not unhappy if you don't know about it because you don't know what you need, right? But this is the attention to detail that you would expect from Lexus, from Rolls-Royce, wouldn't you? This is the kind of attention to detail that you expect from Rolex or Aptora. So I'll click History, and I'll open up the History form. Now I can go to Sales, and I can find that invoice because I should have put in the price on that PO and didn't. And there it is, 52.55.81. 255.81. That's the price I should have put in there. So I'll come back. 52.55.81. There it is. You've changed the price, the cost. Do you want to update that item for future use? So in other words, it had a cost of zero, an estimated cost of zero, because we have not bought one. And it wants to know, well, I take that back, it wasn't zero. It was 37.51. And now you said 52.55. Do you want to update that? Yes, I do. So again, that's attention to detail. Now I've fixed the PO, and I could actually start over. I could delete this item and start over, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to type it in, 52.55.81. Ah, you know what? I made a mistake. I typed in the retail price, not the cost. Shame on me. So it should have been more like 3,700. So I'm going to go back to the PO, fix it. I got fooled. 37. See how easy it is to fix everything? I can fix things real quick. All right, so now it's going to be in stock. I can hit save and close. Now the item is in stock, and we can go back and fix the invoice. That's easy to do. I'm going to go to the invoice list, and I'm going to pick the quick filter called out of stock serial. Notice there's a new quick filter, out of stock serialized items. And I'm going to type in T for true, or I can type in Y for yes or yes. So there's a little search trick for you. Either way, TR, T, doesn't matter. It'll find it anyway. And I put a plus sign in earlier just so I could find it. So now I've quickly found invoices that don't have the serialized item number in it. So I'll open that up, and I'll go to the serial number selector, and I'll pick it. Now I can reprint it or hit save and close. Apply payments, total cost. Hold on. I'll say no to that. Need to fix the price. Generally, you would never have to do this. I just messed up. 52.55.81. I got confused between cost and retail, so I have to put that back. Somebody else should be teaching this class. Unqualified. So there we go. Yeah, I got myself into trouble because I messed up that pricing. That's how I can go fix it. Now it's saying to me, you've sold serialized inventory. Would you like to enter that into their list? Yes, I would. And now it has entered for me that equipment. And there it is. Now, one thing that was really important to the demo yesterday, again, 205 employees, if I remember right. Do you guys track warranty? And I asked, when you say track warranty, what are you referring to? Well, sometimes you'll get a frustrated response. Keep that in mind because they'll think, is this guy stupid? Never heard of warranty? And they said, well, warranty on things. And then I said, oh, yeah, warranty on customer equipment. Yeah, customer equipment. Also parts. Yeah, can you do that? You have that? Show us that. Then they wanted to see what's the warranty on parts. So I opened up a piece of equipment and I said to them, yes, we track warranty on equipment. Here's your warranty. And you can have a general warranty or a warranty on parts, warranty on labor. Here's the manufacturer's warranty, if any. Maybe it's different. And that came when you set up your item, by the way. So when you set up your item, you set up your warranty defaults. You can change them. So yes, we track the warranty on the equipment, but we also track warranty on all individual parts. So you can go to the equipment's history, even our history has history, and you will see every part that you ever install into this piece of equipment, ever. So if you ever repair it, you install it, you have labor in it, no matter what you do to it, every part and its warranty status will be tracked. So we do a really good job of tracking warranty on the equipment, but also warranty on every part ever installed in that piece of equipment. And it doesn't even matter who owns it. I don't assume they know what that means. I say right now, Z&A Foods owns it. And their customer name would be listed right here. But if it changes hands, like somebody moves out of that restaurant and a new person moves into that restaurant, or they sell this piece of equipment to somebody else, you'll potentially have all those other names in here as well. And you'll have the factory warranty and your warranty information right in front of you, and that's available in mobile. All of that is in mobile. So that's project management. Really, all of this is related to project management.
James, can I ask a question when you're finished here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So you showed earlier how they can create that invoice and have a customer prepay for a job. Can you walk through what happens if the contractor just elects to take, let's say, a $2,500 deposit for the job, issue a receipt for that deposit? However, the deposit is not applied to an invoice.
Okay. So they don't want to apply it to an.
That's correct. So they're
All
just
right.
telling the customer, you got a $10,000 job. We receive a $2,500 deposit. So basically what's happening when you receive that payment, it's showing up as a credit on that customer's account that is able to be applied to the invoice when the invoice is created.
Right. So to do that, we would go to receive payments. We would pick a customer, and I'll pick someone I can easily find. Tom Henderson got invoices. Doesn't matter if he has invoices or not, because I don't have to apply it to any of them. Let's see what Tim Smith has. He's got one. All right. So Tim Smith then on this date hands us $10,000, and I'll put unapplied. A huge believer in memos. Unapplied payment credit. So we have an unapplied payment here of $10,000. You don't necessarily have to pick a department. It's not required. How did he pay us? We'll say a check number. There it is. Now I can come down to print receipt here. It says, hey, you haven't applied this to anything. So you might want to click cancel. You can click cancel and apply all of the money received to the unpaid transactions. Or another option, you can click OK to record this payment the way it is. Total Ops Manager will automatically generate a credit for you. So OK is what we want in this case. Now it continues with the print options. So here you can email them receipt, or you can print it. You don't have a lot of options. We didn't give a lot of formatting options on this because it's not real common to do anything. And then you hit print. There's your payment receipt. So now they have a credit of $10,000 on file. We can come back and use that later. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to create an invoice and apply the credit if you'd like me to, but it's easy. You'll come into the new payment form. We'd come back here and it'd say credit of $10,000, and we would be able to apply the credit to any of these line items.
Okay, so before you do that, okay, so this is a situation that I ran into trying to show during a demo. So we received it, we didn't apply it, it went to undeposited funds, we deposited that check to the bank. So then the question comes up, where is that $10,000? It's showing up as a credit on the customer's account, but where else is it? Should that not be showing as a current liability because we've received funds from a customer we've not provided a service for yet?
Yes, it would.
Okay, so show me your balance sheet now to determine where is it on the balance sheet showing that we have this liability.
Yeah. All right. So we won't find it, as Roger mentioned, the balance sheet. We won't find it on the income statement because we didn't have $10,000 of income. Some guy came in and handed us $10,000 for some reason. The accounting system doesn't care, but it sure wasn't a sale. That's important. It wasn't a sale, but it was money handed to us that we put in the bank. So we'll find that on the balance sheet. So let's go to the balance sheet and type in 0301 2020 preview. So somewhere in here, there's the $10,000. I'll show you how to get to the details in a second. Somewhere in here, I think I had the operating account picked. So somewhere in here is a $10,000 chunk of money. I can double click on it to see where this came from. Let's see, checking bank account, not the right place, but I can go find that. We'll do that in a second. And then somewhere on here, there's a liability. So we've created a liability, a vendor credit or a customer credit. Now, a lot of times, depending on how you set it up, a lot of times it's not obvious to you. You can't see it. Like, where is it? I don't see it in here. I know it's there because what it did is it would have debited my bank account, debited meaning it went up, and it would have credited a liability, which means it went up. But where is it? Is it inside accounts payable? Where is that $10,000? So another way to go investigate that, and this is what accounting people would do, is we might go to a report. We could go to a report. We could go to banking. We could go down to the general journal. We could filter the general journal, and I will. I'll put in 0301 2020 to 0301 2020. And I know I'm in the right spot because there's the 10 grand. So this tells the whole story. It's a little complicated to look at it, but this tells the whole story. So right now we have accounts payable, or pardon me, accounts receivable, $10,000. That got credited. So it actually reduced our accounts receivable by 10,000. Why? Because accounts receivable is money owed to us by people. And we owe this guy 10 grand. So it put the $10,000 in accounts receivable. And it also has $10,000 sitting in undeposited funds. So let's go back to that balance sheet. On the balance sheet, let's get rid of the statement. Back to my balance sheet. There you are. On the balance sheet, we look around. I'm looking for undeposited funds. So there it is. There it is. So right now we've got, theoretically, we'd have $76,000 in checks laying around, that or cash checks, whatever. That's money that's sitting on somebody's desk somewhere that needs to get to the bank. So those are the undeposited funds that haven't made their way to the bank yet, but that's got your $10,000 in it. When I do the deposit, it'll clear that number and it'll put it in this number or whatever bank account I deposit it to. Now that action takes place under banking, make deposits. It says you have undeposited funds, meaning you have money laying around that's not in the bank. And then you would go to that screen, and this theoretically should match all the money laying around on your desk. Now, how does that happen? Technicians can be coming in dropping off checks. So your 10,000 bucks is in here somewhere. You can filter for it. In this case, I'll search for it. There it is. Tim Smith. I'll check that box. I'll click close. I will change my date, 0303, 0301, 2020. And there's the deposit. I can print a deposit slip, a deposit summary. I'll go save and close. Now, that moved $10,000 out of undeposited funds and put it into the bank account. And the other side of the transaction is $10,000 in my accounts receivable is a negative number. So let's go
Isn't that a
run.
problem, James? That's a problem. I mean, it shouldn't be reducing accounts receivable. It should have put that to a liability account.
Yeah, that could have. We could have done it that way. So let's go to receive items list. Let's find our $10,000. Oh, item receipt. Sorry, I picked the wrong thing. Let's go to our receive items. Receive payments. Seeing the wrong thing. Receive payments. There's our $10,000. So we could have picked a different account if we wanted to, but the default account was accounts receivable.
There you go. Okay, that's the part I missed right there. Okay, perfect. That should have gone to a current liability account.
Yeah, and it could have, but there's different ways to look at it, and there's no official answer. Because one person could quite correctly say, look, that's a liability, right? Yes, it is. It's a liability. And then another person could come along and say, look, this guy has a customer balance of negative 9,702. That's what I want. Because I need to know it. I need to know that I owe him money. If you put that in a liability account, his balance would not reflect it.
Oh, okay.
You don't get to have it both. You don't get to have it both ways.
Well, why not?
Because the law of account,
Yeah.
The law of accounting dictates that. It can only go in one spot. It
Yeah.
either has to, remember the debit credit rule. It has to debit one thing, has to credit something else at least. And so it's either going to go in accounts receivable or notes payable. But either answer is correct as long as you understand which one you want.
No, but in this case here, you would want it there so that whenever the invoice is being created, people see it and know to apply it. Otherwise, if it was at a liability account, they wouldn't see it and maybe not apply it. And then you have an angry customer saying, hey, I already gave you money. How come it's not showing? So,
I said notes payable earlier for
yeah.
the sake of the recording. I'll correct myself that not notes payable, but a liability. Now, there are times where the liability could make sense. Let's say that we're starting a large job and we require a big down payment. We might decide that we're going to put that in a liability account. And later, we're going to move it to accounts receivable. What's the difference? Well, I could say to you, Roger, I need $10,000 down, and we are going to go ahead and start planning on that job. You have 30 days to cancel. Please understand, after 30 days, you cannot cancel. Otherwise, you'll forfeit the $10,000. Are you okay with that? Yes, I am. Sign this, please. So for 30 days, I'm going to call it a liability. And then on the 31st day, haha, it's an accounts receivable. See the difference? Roger?
Yep. Yep. No, I do. And thank you for going through that because, like I said, it showed me what I missed.
Yeah, no problem. This is really good stuff, valuable stuff. This is the kind of thing that a full charge bookkeeper understands. I keep saying that word because most companies, they don't really appreciate the value of a qualified bookkeeper. They hire someone they're comfortable with, a brother-in-law, sister-in-law, mother-in-law, a hot girl that lives down the street or walked in for the job. She was hot. They hired her. No kidding. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. That's it, because it's just a bookkeeper. It's not like it's a big deal, right? So get the hot girl, get the hot guy. But that's 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 sad because it's a difficult job. It's a complicated job. They send their technicians to school all the time. And they don't hesitate to buy their tech tools. And then the bookkeeper, the hot girl, they don't give her any training. They complain if Aptora wants to charge money to train her or him. I don't mean to be sexist, but in the contracting world, it's almost always a girl. It's almost always a family member. And if it's not, it's the hottest one that came in. That's just the truth because the contractor doesn't see the value in understanding all of this. The owner should not have to understand this. They should have somebody in there that takes care of all this. They don't give it any thought.
Well, the other thing, James, the reason I bring this up is because in this particular demo, the contractor was telling me that their current software doesn't allow them to take a deposit and not apply it to an invoice and retain it as a credit on account. So they were blown away by the fact that our software has the ability to do it. It's just whenever they asked me, okay, where did this go now? That's where I got stumped as to what account did it end up in.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
think
again,
for sales presentations, this is a good thing to be able to show people that you can do this.
it is. And this is great for you in RA Tax if you're interested in, the people at RA Tax are interested in learning more about accounting and bookkeeping. This is great for you. And then you salespeople might be thinking, well, this accounting. But if you show this in demos, then you're showing them stuff no other salesperson probably ever showed them. And then you make a big deal out of the attention to detail. Of course, we allow you to do that. Of course, like Roger just said, their present program doesn't allow you to receive a payment and not apply it to an invoice? What happens when someone says, look, I just want to give you $10,000 today, and then you use it later? The software can't handle that? No. Of course we can. Why do I say of course? Because we're contractors building software for contractors. Of course we do that. And when we don't do something like allow you to sell serialized items that you don't have, when we are caught not allowing you to do something that seems to make sense, what do we do about it? We don't make excuses, we fix it. We add that feature. That's the advantage of dealing with us. That's why you don't want generic off the shelf software. So I know maps and little icons blinking down the map and all that stuff is sexy, but that stuff doesn't really mean anything when you don't have basic accounting capability. So you're dealing with people that can't appreciate that. And so they're all enamored by the sexy stuff that Service Titan will put out, and others, Service Titan's not going to last forever. There's going to be another Service Titan that comes along. And they're going to have sexy stuff too. But why should that mean anything to you when you can't even receive a down payment on something that hasn't happened yet? So we got to point that stuff out. You in sales got to point that stuff out. It's really critical. Then you'll start building value because they're going to say, during that demo, that guy pointed out like 3 really deep accounting features. I bet they have like 30 more. No, I bet they have like 100 more. Yeah, they probably do because that's their specialty. Sure wish they had that geofencing though. Wow. Yeah, I don't think we need that geofencing. We need better accounting. So when people go to seminars, believe me, when they go to a seminar on how to run a business, the seminar guy isn't standing up there saying, you know what your problem is? You guys don't have geofencing. You go back to your office and get yourself some geofencing and you'll be back to profitability in no time. No, they're going to people like Gary Ellis, and Gary Ellis is saying, you people need fully departmentalized income statements. Why the hell are you worried about geofencing when you can't print a fully departmentalized income statement down to net profit with overhead allocation? That's where you start. You come back to me when you have fully overhead allocated departmentalized income statements. Then come back to me. That's what he's telling people. So the more educated these people get, the more likely they're going to pick up Torah. And Roger and all of you are starting to see it. Like if someone was asking Roger about that, that's a person that's starting to think deep about what their software cannot do. And that's who you're going to start selling more to. That's why these classes are so important, these webinars, because you're going to get more and more people that have long forgotten about the sexy stuff and they've realized, wow, we need to get back to basics. We got to get back to good accounting. All right, final questions on any of that? Okay, another thing they asked about was service agreements. Keep in mind, service agreements are part of our software built in, yes, but there's some advanced features. One of which is this: go to Preferences, go to Service Agreements, and you have an option called Escrow Accounting. And there's other names for it, by the way, but there's no official name. Sometimes it's revenue recognition, something like that, escrow accounting. Probably we need to add some AKAs to the side of this. But what that does is, the tooltip tells you, allows you to recognize income only when work is performed. So here you are selling a service agreement, and maybe that service agreement is, let's make the number big, $12,000. That can be one agreement. It could be 1,200 agreements, right? but you got service agreements selling, and you got $12,000 worth. All right. Well, what's the problem with that? With most software, like QuickBooks doesn't have service agreement management, but you can certainly create an item called service agreement, can't you? So in QuickBooks, you can make an item and call it service agreement, $12,000. The trouble is, this might be 12 monthly visits. Visits. 12 monthly visits. So it would be a mistake to call that $12,000 in income. You might have been paid $12,000, kind of like the $10,000 Roger brought up. They might have given you $12,000, but it wasn't $12,000 in income because you haven't done any work yet. You still got to go there. So what our software has the ability to do is it has the ability to increase your cash by $12,000. Right? So on your balance sheet, you're going to have $12,000 in the bank account. But also, it's going to create a liability of $12,000 because you haven't done anything yet. So there's going to be $12,000 on the other side of it. And then as you start doing the work, the software has the capability of recognizing $1,000 in income. So every time you do a visit, it'll recognize 1,000 income. It'll start lowering the liability and start increasing your income by $1,000. And what does that do for you? First of all, you don't pay income taxes on that $12,000 unless you've done the work. And why does that matter? Because you're going to have expenses, gasoline. You're going to burn gas. You're going to pay for labor. You're going to use cleaning materials, etc. So this is a very advanced feature that allows you to recognize income as you do the work. There's a couple of options though too, is it will allow you, if you want, it'll allow you to just simply divide the money out if you would prefer. So let me show that to you. Let's go to the items list, invoice items. Let's filter by service agreements. That's a user filter that you can create. Let's open one of these service agreements. Go to the accounting tab. We can see how the income is tracked, right? We talked about that earlier. That's our chart of accounts. There's an income account called service agreement. And you have a couple of features down here, escrow holding account. So that is the holding account that's got that money in it. In the escrow method, you have an option. It's locked down because we've already picked it and used it. So let's go back here and let's do a new one so you can see the selection. You have two options. You can match money movements to the work orders. So whenever the work order gets completed, it'll match the money with that work order date. Or it'll create monthly movements on its own. And that just simply takes the money divided by the months. 1,200 divided by 12 months, $100 a month. And it does that on the first day of every month. So those are advanced features in the service agreement area. And it has real value because it means that you're going to have an income statement that is far more accurate and realistic. And you're going to potentially save money on your taxes because you're not reporting income you don't have yet. Now, by the way, when you start dealing with service agreements, you might wonder, how do you know where the money's being moved around? Go to the general journal. Remember, we went to the general journal earlier and it showed us credits and debits. Advanced accounting people can always go there to get answers. You can also come down to service agreement escrow movement, and you would see a list of all the money that's moving around for service agreements. So this is all of that money being moved around. double click on one of them to see it. By the way, it's really just an adjusting journal entry. You don't have the ability to change much of this. You can change the date, the memo, and the department. We allow that, but you can't change anything else because it'll get you in trouble. Because this usually is happening behind the scenes and people don't need to know about it.
James, this is another, real good thing here for the sales team when you're doing a demo, because I don't know of any of their software that is allowing them to do escrow accounting like this.
I don't either.
No, and I've got, I've got contractors using it and are blown away by it, especially the automatic triggering by the work order when the work order is completed. And like they just sit back in awe whenever they see this happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we take it for granted, really. I mean, we all work here and, we hear the boss talk about how great the software is. And that's what he's going to say because he's the boss. But it is. It's great software. We have attention to detail that's unreal. Is it perfect? No. Bugs? Yes. Problems? Sure. More problems in the future? Yeah. But we have extreme attention to detail. We take care of things that really matter. You are not getting this from Service Titan. How do I know that? Because QuickBooks is the engine powering Service Titan's accounting. It's a Band-Aid for QB. Always call that a Band-Aid. Don't call them bolt-ons. QB Band-Aids. So never say bolt-on. Always say a QB Band-Aid. It's a QB Band-Aid. QB doesn't allow this, doesn't offer it. Why should they? Service Titan is a Band-Aid on top of it that can't offer it because it doesn't have accounting. That's why there are companies out there that they don't have a choice. They have to go with us. They just don't know about us yet. The hard part is marketing that. That's a whole nother discussion, right? But I've often said we're the worst marketed, best company out there. That's no offense to Stephanie. It's just that it's really hard to market this kind of stuff because it's not sexy. All right, so that's the escrow feature. And believe me, when you're a company that has thousands of service agreements, or you have just maybe not a lot of service agreements, but they're expensive. Keep in mind, you could have 15,000 service agreements like Service Today has for a few hundred apiece. But you could be a commercial company that only has 300 service agreements worth $5 million. If you've got $5 million in service agreements, you cannot afford to be without this feature. What would Ted Finch say? Oh, you'd be a crazy fool to try to run your company without this feature. And then remember, one way to wrap it up, if you feel like you've really gotten their attention, and they're like sitting there going, wow, man, that is cool. He's right. I mean, I like that. That's a time for you to pop up something that maybe they haven't even asked about, but they're into this service agreement thing and they're thinking it's so great. You can say, yeah, and keep in mind, we haven't even talked about mobile, how we can build detailed forms into mobile to do your service agreement work. So this is, for example, a template that we can offer you for doing your service agreement work. And all of this information is built into mobile, which means it's built into the desktop, which means you can bring that form up anytime you feel like it. How would you do that? Just real quick, and I'll wrap up the service agreement discussion. You're looking at the service agreement. We have a strict 3 mouse click rule. So you click menu and you go to history. Remember, everything's got history. History's everywhere. Go into history. Here's a list of everyone that's ever bought that service agreement. There they are. So you can go into any of these people and see the service agreement. Like ZNA Foods, just open that record up. There you are. And there's when they bought it. Have you done any tune-ups? That's no problem. Because remember the 3 mouse click rule, just go to the customer history. So you're looking at their history, and you will be able to see all of their work orders. Or you like that worksheet you saw earlier, you want to see it, go to document links. And if anyone had filled out that precision tune-up sheet, it'd be here. And you can double click it and it'll open up and all the information will be filled out. And you could send it to them, email it to them, print it, whatever you want. So I would say that our service agreement system is the most advanced out there. And if that's not enough, remember, if we have not done it properly, you can point that out. I'm not guaranteeing you anything, except this much I can guarantee. It's going to be hard to find a company that can appreciate what you're saying more than us. You call and tell us as a contractor why you need something to run your business. You just have to have a feature such as selling out of stock serialized items. At least you know we'll listen to you and we'll think about it, and we might just do it. And why? Is it to get you off our back? No, it's because we understand what you're saying. And that's not the same thing as talking to some computer person that's just trying to sell software. It doesn't really understand why you would ask for such a thing. All right. Notice, you guys, how I wrap it up? I ended this with what I started with. I did a chart of account overview, got into project management, talked about selling out of stock items, got into service agreements after the warranty, got into service agreements, and somehow found a way to tie that all back into selling out of stock items, which was a feature request, which we originally said no to. But then when we thought about it, we thought, yes, you'd be crazy to run your company without that feature if you have to have such a thing. All right, couple minor things I want to point out. I'll stop and do any questions that you might have. I still get questions on work in progress, percentage of completion, job costing. Let me know if we need to do more training on that. I do some reading on your own. Just go out, for example, on the internet. And I've said it before, there's all kinds of articles on work in progress, construction accounting, etc. This article, for example, talks about work in progress and what information you need. So people might say to you, I need work in progress reports. You have those? And you could show them around and they could still be confused. And you could say, well, tell me this. Is this what you mean by work in progress? So you need to know the job name. You need to know the total contract value, including change orders. Yeah, we need all that. Total estimated costs, what you thought you would end up spending versus what you ended up spending, including change orders, or like a percentage of estimated costs versus what you've actually encountered. Yeah, we want both of that. You want estimated gross profit for the contract. So, like, for example, go back to the estimate, total them all up, and estimate the gross profit you were expecting. Yeah, we want that. And then you want the completion percentage, like how much of the job have you completed or billed, actual cost, recognized revenue, gross profit, actual billing, and the difference. Yeah, that's what we want. Well, that's in there. We have that. We don't have a single report that uses all these words, though. Maybe we need one. Maybe we need one. Maybe it would help people. But we don't actually have this table I'm showing you. That's just somebody's internet site, somebody's website. But what we do have is we have all that info. So if you go to reports, you'll find them in here. Let me just pick one. If I go to the job costing overview report, make it a little bigger. It shows you the estimates awarded. So the words are different, but that's your contract amount. That's your total contract amount. Because those are all the estimates. Usually there's one, but you could have several. Those are all the estimates that got awarded. And it doesn't say it, but they do include change orders. So we might want to add those words someday. Maybe we should. But that's what that is. And then this tells you how much of that's been invoiced. Only 3.2%. So there's that answer. If I were to go back to that web page, I've answered one of the questions. It says, well, how much is the contract amount? And out of the contract amount, how much have you invoiced? 3.2%. So 96.8% is left. And how much funds have you received? Usually that's the same number. But remember, just because you invoiced it doesn't mean you've received the money, right? So there's the total funds received, accounts receivable. So we have that info. And we also have your gross profit. That was one of the things that it wanted to know. Up here, you can see all the money that's been spent so far. That's how we got that gross profit number. There's another report that you might like, and that is go to custom data views, go to data views, and in here we have another report. Give me just a second. I don't go to it very often because the other reports are almost always sufficient. I think I have that name memorized by now. I have gone in there before. We have an over-under report. Usually when I do something like this, I know where it's at, but I'm showing everything we have and I'm making the point that I almost never need to go in here, usually. But right now, I've gone past that. I've actually forgot what it was. I do very well talking and working at the same time. That's why I get so aggravated.
James,
Interrupting.
isn't it under reports and under estimate versus actual?
Well, that's one of them,
Okay.
but this one is more dedicated to just answering questions that were on that little graph. For the reason I'm just not seeing it but here, but oh, there it is. Estimate over under details. Okay, so there are the columns that make up this data set. Remember, the custom data view is just a data set, a bunch of data that we throw out there. Why do we do that? Because you might want to open it in Excel and do something. But you can also go in and make a report. Here is one of those reports. And you can see it gets right to it. So it shows you what's the original contract, what's the revised contract. So that would be change orders. And what did we estimate the cost would be? And what are our costs to date? And what's our cost to complete? So how much money is it going to cost us to complete this thing? And what's our percentage of completion? And what's been billed to date? What's our revenue to date? And so what is our over under? what's our estimated gross profit? And what's our gross profit? These numbers are out of whack just because I'm in a demo database. But that's what a lot of people are also looking for. Again, the beauty of this is you get to build your own. I've been working on this, so it's not finished. But you get to build your own, make it look any way you want. You can have headers and footers and lines and subtotals and things like that. But that's what most people are looking for in addition to what we already have. So we definitely have the work in progress. We have the percentage of completion and things like that. Right. One last reminder, off topic here, but with your Office 365 subscription, you have a OneDrive, which you should be using. So OneDrive is out on the cloud, right there, OneDrive. You don't see yours, let somebody know. Erica, Bryant, they're kind of like our unofficial IT people. But you can log into your OneDrive account and you can download the OneDrive. So in other words, you have your own OneDrive account out on the internet. You can go out there and use it. And in addition to using it out on the internet, in the lower left-hand corner, it'll ask you if you want to download the OneDrive app. When you do, it'll show up in your File Explorer. It'll be like right here. And then you can put your stuff in here. And you really should because it's being backed up constantly. And it's also versioning itself. So you can easily go in and see the versions, the different versions of all of your documents. So that way, when you open up something, if it's messed up, you can go back to a version of a few minutes ago, a few days ago, or a few months ago. It keeps all of it. Now, I say that because Stephanie has been working on something for quite a while, and she thinks she lost it. She called Adobe Tech Support to see if she could get it back. It's only on her hard drive. That's it. She's got an old version on a thumb drive. But if she'd been using OneDrive, it really wouldn't have mattered because it'd be out there. She would have lost only a few minutes of work. Also, when you're on a OneDrive, it auto saves constantly. See the auto save on? It saves itself constantly. And if this thing were to crash, I would probably lose no more than 1 minute or less of work. By the way, as a side note, Epic 2020, this is my class. Higher Tech Sales, a Diagnostic Approach. I've been working on my outline for the class. And it's going to be cool because I'm going to bring tools. And I'm actually going to break out tools and parts, and I'm going to show people how to thoroughly diagnose equipment. I'm going to show them where they've been missing out. I'm going to show them where they've been using the wrong tools. And I'm going to show them tools they didn't know existed. And we're going to create higher revenue with a diagnostic approach. And I'm going to make the point that techs don't sell. Is going to distinguish me from a lot of other consulting people that are always trying to teach technicians how to sell. And I think that technicians need to sell between you and I, but not the way you think, the way a doctor sells. So I make the point that doctors aren't salespeople, but they sell stuff all the time. They're seen as professionals. So that is my class, just FYI. Does anybody have any final questions about anything that we've talked about or something we haven't?
James, I sent you an email this morning on something, but I don't know if you want to cover it off in this meeting or not.
I haven't seen my email since 11 o'clock last night. So I don't know.
Okay. It had to do with importing. I sent you a CSV file, and it has to do with importing items. Now, the one question that I had is that it doesn't seem, when you're importing on the total office manager side, there doesn't seem to be a spot to import the aliases when you are bringing in the items from a CSV file. Am I correct in saying that once you bring the items in, then you have to go back and do another import to import the item aliases?
Yes, you do. That's a two-step process. That's right.
Okay, so it'll automatically match. It'll find the item and then automatically populate the alias associated with that item.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay. And then the second thing, if you wouldn't mind, just have a look at that email because I'm getting an error and I don't know if I should talk tech support or whatever, but I just thought we could cover that off here. So anyway, I'll stop talking here now.
I'll look at the email, but yeah, I'll check it out. Maybe there's a bug or something. Right. Any other questions? All right, so remember, I will save the video. I'll download it. I'll give it a name. It'll have today's date on it, but I'll give it a name that tries to describe what we talked about, and it will show up on my OneDrive. That's one big advantage. See, I have a OneDrive. I have Aptora files, operations manual, source files, training, Aptora University, employee product training. Everybody has access to this. I've shared it with all of you. If you don't, you can always email me. But this is where you can go get these if you want to watch it again. But please understand, this was product training, accounting training, but it was also sales training. This is a way to separate yourself from Slick Willie down at Service Titan or Field Edge. All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Bye.